Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Prescott High School girls golf coach Deb Fitzgerald and senior golfer Brannagh Woods. They'll talk about the season so far and break down Brannagh's college plans. We'll then be joined by Sedona Red Rock High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum. He'll discuss the impact of his senior class, preview the upcoming sophomore and junior class, and speak about the season as a whole. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Sedona Red Rock High School junior swimmer Carlos Lattanzi to talk about how he is preparing for state, which Division I program he'd like to attend after graduation next season, and who he looks to for inspiration. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by Sedona Red Rock High School junior swimmer Carlos Lattanzi. Carlos, welcome onto the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. We've heard a lot about you, so we thought we'd bring you onto the show. We got a chance to speak with your head coaches a little bit earlier, I believe in the summertime as the season was getting kicked off. Of course, we are in the midst of state competition right now. So Carlos, I thought we'd get an opportunity to just kind of get to know who you are. As I mentioned, Carlos is a junior. He's still got one more year at Sedona Red Rock, so still a lot of time for this kid to make up his college plans, but might have a couple of some things in the works here. But Carlos, let's start off from the beginning. How did you get started competing in swim?
When I was younger, I would go to the community pool over here in Sedona, and my dad would take me swimming. So I remember he taught me how to swim at first, and I remember I just enjoyed it so much. And then when I was like about 8, I was swimming like across the pool, and one of the lifeguards was like, "You should try out for the swim team." So I tried it out, and I'm very competitive because before I did swim, I did every other sport. So I'm just very competitive. And then I started to win when I started swimming. So I really enjoyed it.
And did you participate in any kind of club? Did you take that a step further when you were in elementary school and participate in any other outside extracurriculars?
I remember when I was 8 during the summer, I did like club swim to see what it was like. And I did like recreational meets, and it was fun and I enjoyed it. And then I took that fall, winter, and like kind of spring off, and I did like other sports. And then kind of the summer when I was 9 is when I really like started swimming, and I just kind of put everything to the side, and I just really took swim seriously.
What about swimming just kind of made you want to focus on just that?
It's just swimming is a different sport from every other sport that you do, because it's a team sport for some things, but for most of it, it's an individual sport. Mm-hmm. So it's how you perform. So you don't have to, you can rely when you have like relays, but it's good. You can just focus on what you want to do.
Do you feel any kind of pressure with that individual aspect of the sport, like you just said?
Not really. I don't have that much pressure. Obviously, I want to do it the best I possibly can. And when I don't, obviously it's a little,
right.
Yeah, not my goal, but yeah.
Okay. What's been the most challenging aspect of swim for you so far?
I think it was beginning of this year. I didn't have a coach up here in Sedona, so I've been having to train by myself at a pool. So I've just been training by myself, running my own practices. But I am on a team down in Phoenix, so I get down there as much as I can on weekends, which is nice. But yeah, I would say training by myself.
Well, I mean, does that sort of, solo training sort of help prepare you for the start of the swim season? What do you kind of focus on during that time?
I try to focus on just like different aspects of the race, like the beginning of the race, the middle of the race, and the end of the race, especially.
Okay.
Yeah. So training by myself kind of helps because I can kind of make the practice kind of towards myself to help me make my weaknesses stronger or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talk about sort of focusing on the beginning, middle, and end of the race. How do you, where do you feel the level of importance are in terms of those three aspects? Do you feel that it's more important to sort of get it out to a really good start? Do you feel it's more important to maybe sort of pick up where you left off if you didn't start out strong, like in the middle, like you said, or is it better? A lot of people say start strong, finish strong. So the ending, I mean, where do you find the level of importance when you're training those certain aspects of your game?
Well, I think start strong, finish strong. So I think you should have a really good start, and then really you don't want to slow down or anything. Because I'm a distance swimmer, I would say, because I'm not a sprinter. So I'm a distance swimmer. So I think the middle part and the end are the most important parts of the race for me. So yeah.
Okay. No, definitely. And then, like you said, so in the relay, you're more kind of at the tail end then.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. What's been your favorite memory so far? As I mentioned, of course, Carlos is a junior at Sedona Red Rocks, so he's still got a whole new year of memories to make at the high school. But so far, does anything kind of stick out to you?
So let's see. So I do USA swimming in high school. So I'll give one for USA swimming, and I'll give one for high school.
Cool.
So I think my favorite memory for USA swimming is when I was 12. I broke the 11-12 Arizona state record in the men's 400-yard IM.
Wow.
So I was very happy about that. It was a very proud moment. It was at that point I was like, okay, I'm actually pretty good at the sport, so I should probably. And then for high school, I would say it was my sophomore year at high school state when I won the 200 IM at high school state.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say because I was third at the 100, so I had a really good back half, so I was very happy about that.
Now, this is a topic we haven't touched upon too much on the show of late, but I'm curious. I was looking at some of the articles written about you and, of course, the team, and they talked about a lot about last season and what you accomplished last year, setting a very, very high bar coming into this year with your performances last year at state. I mean, obviously, coming into last year, COVID was an issue. You guys weren't necessarily swimming against teams in the same pool. How did you kind of navigate that sort of, disadvantage in the summertime? There's potential there may not even have been a swim season, but how did you kind of keep yourself fresh, keep yourself trained up and throughout that time, just throughout that time of COVID?
So I swim at my, I like a friend's house, and he had like a 10-yard pool. So it was pretty small, but I swam during there throughout the entire time of quarantine. And then when they started finally opening up the pools, then I got to train more. And I would say when the pools opened, like after like COVID in like, I think it was July, they started opening up. I had some of the best training I think I've ever had in like July, August, and September, I would say.
Do you have any kind of like pregame routine?
I don't really do anything. I try to focus on my race, make sure I know exactly what I want to do. But most of the time I have to sit there and think right before I race exactly like I imagine the race. Okay.
So very, very visual. Now, I mean, for me, I used to eat like a pregame meal. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling in terms of like eating before going in the pool. I know there's, you have that thing where 30 minutes before you go into the pool or you have cramps or whatever. But I'm curious, is there any kind of like meal routine that you do? I mean, do you kind of just try to eat light before a match? I mean, obviously the adrenaline's running, the anxiety's going. Do you have any kind of like, I don't know, food preparation you do before you get in the pool?
It kind of depends. It's kind of weird. I kind of depend on whatever I'm swimming. Mm-hmm. So if I'm swimming like a bigger race, I'll probably eat a little more food. So I have a little more in my system. But yeah, or I'll drink like a protein shake, like a beet juice.
Okay. Oh, beet juice. Okay.
That. Yeah, I drink that before my race. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Do they taste less like dirt when they're in juice?
I put in apple juice, so it tastes a little nicer. So, yeah.
Again, we were speaking with Sedona Red Rock High School junior swimmer Carlos Lattanzi. Again, state competition underway right now for the Scorpions and everyone here in northern Arizona and throughout the state, of course. I want to get a little bit existential here. I want to ask you, when have you been mentally challenged in the pool during your time at Sedona?
I would definitely say it was in like January to like February. That's when I was like training by myself, and it's very hard to keep like obviously you have motivation to want to be the best, but it's hard when you don't have a coach telling you what to do and keep pushing you. Yeah. When you can just be like, oh, I don't want to do this, so I don't have to do this. When if you say it with a coach, they go, too bad, you got to do it anyways.
Right. But, no, definitely. So, what about events? You compete in a bunch of events. We talked about, obviously, you participate in the breaststroke. You participate in relays. Do you have a particular favorite event that you participate in?
My favorite event is the 400-yard IM. Okay. I'm actually currently going for my junior national cut in that, and junior nationals will be held in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
At the University of Texas at Austin. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm training every day for that, 2 hours a day, working out a little bit, and then, just putting everything I have into qualifying for that.
Now, as I mentioned, you've got, one more year at Sedona Red Rock High School, but I'm curious, in these 3 years so far, how have you grown as a person competing in high school sports? And let's take it a step further, just competing in general. How has it helped you grow as a person in regular life?
I would say a lot, because before high school, I was on a small team up in Sedona, so I didn't get to do much relays. I didn't have a big team. But during high school, I've gotten to meet new people. I'm more social now. Like, I talk to everybody. So it's good to know, because you have people who take it super seriously. And then high school season is kind of like, because you just have kids from high school who just choose to do swim. So it's fun. So it really lightens up like the sport. So I enjoy it a lot more.
What about somebody who's maybe a little less sure about joining the swim team? What advice would you have to anybody who might be either thinking about participating in swim in high school or just participating in swim in general?
I would say you should definitely join swim, because swim is a sport. It's one of those sports where even like when you're older, you can still do it. And it's also some of the best exercise for like your entire body and even your head, because you get to think about what you're doing. It's not like you have to talk to people when you're swimming. You can just focus on what you want to do. What about leadership? I mean, obviously you're a junior this year. Next year, you're going to be the senior. You're going to be part of that senior class. How have you utilized your leadership to sort of help some of those newcomers to the sport within the program at Sedona? I think just motivating them, because I think motivation is probably the most important thing when it comes to these people who just started swimming. They want to, how do I word this? They just need as much help as they can. So if you keep saying, you got this, you get if you keep doing this, you'll get to this point, because they want to do as best they can. If you just, I guess, are there to help them, I guess they'll do good.
So utilizing your knowledge to sort of pass it on to some of the newer swimmers, and like you said, keeping it competitive. I mean, you set a pretty high bar, so anyone behind you is going to be trying really hard to get even close to what you've accomplished.
Yeah. I guess it's just having experience, and then having these people who are new. It's kind of like nice being able to share my experience with them, and they've never experienced it. So it's quite nice.
What area have you kind of grown in this year with your swim? Where have you improved from last year coming into this year?
Improved from last year into this year. For swimming, like my actual swimming itself,
or in life, either or.
In swimming, it's definitely been just my freestyle, because I've gotten much faster with that. Because I've already dropped almost 4 seconds from last year in my 500 freestyle.
Wow.
So that was, and it was it was last weekend I did it at, so I was very happy with that. And then I think it's helped me with leadership, because last year we had about 6 or 7 seniors. Mm-hmm. So they're all gone now, but I loved all of them. They were all my favorite. They just taught me a lot about leadership and everything, and running things and being able to handle all these things. So, yeah.
Again, we're speaking with Sedona Red Rock High School junior swimmer Carlos Lattanzi. Carlos, who do you look for inspiration? Is there a particular swimmer or maybe a particular person in your life that you kind of look to and go, I want to be like this person, or I want to be this person?
I would say one of my favorite people is probably, I would say it's Jason Lezak, or the obvious Michael Phelps, because one's 23 Olympic gold medals, but Jason Lezak, because he was the anchor leg in Beijing in 2008 for the men's 400 freestyle relay, and he they were behind, and he caught up to someone who no one was expecting him to catch up to. And he said after the race, he goes, "You never quit because you never know what's going to happen."
Yeah.
So I heard that, and I was like, okay, now you never stop. Even if you're way behind, you never know what's going to happen. They could just, die in the end of the race, and you keep going. So,
well, hopefully that doesn't happen in the pool where somebody really quits in life. But definitely, I agree. That's a great aspect, or at least great motivation for life in general, is to just keep pushing forward. Obviously with the pandemic going on and just things in general in normal people's lives, it can be a little bit discouraging to want to push forward. But it's great to know that at least some inspiration is there with the younger generation of that, and it is push forward, keep going forward. Don't look back, keep going forward. How are you preparing yourself for state? As we talked about, state competition is underway. We're talking with Carlos just a little bit before then, but Carlos, how are you preparing yourself for the upcoming state competition?
I'm doing a lot of freestyle, a lot of sprinting, a lot of pace, trying to hit that right time so I can go what I want to go at state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking at the other meets, seeing what everyone else is going. So yeah, I think just training a lot, working on my small things like my start, my turns, my underwaters, just the small things just to fix it up as state is in like 2 weeks.
Okay, what about your college plans? I mean, where are you at right now? Again, you're just a junior. You still got some time. I know we talked a little bit before the interview. You've got maybe some ideas of where you'd want to go. Who's on the list right now? Give me your dream school, and then give me the list.
I have a couple. I'd say right now, my dream schools are University of Florida in Gainesville, University of Texas at Austin, and then maybe North Carolina State.
Okay. Does NC State have a pretty big swim program? Yeah,
they're all Division I schools.
Right.
So looking forward to it. And then also ASU is also one of them. So.
And no look up at NAU at all up in the northern part of the state?
I would love to go to NAU, but they don't have a men's swim team.
Great point. That might also be a problem. But I'm a big fan of UT. I'm a huge Texas fan. I grew up a Texas fan as a kid. So it'd be really cool to get an opportunity to know somebody who actually goes there. But of course, Florida, University of Florida, huge swim program down there. NC State, as you said, has got a great program as well. And of course, ASU does too. So a lot of options for you. Of course, Carlos is in his junior year at Sedona Red Rock High School. He's still got one more year left. Any indication of what you might be studying when you get out there?
I'm definitely looking into going into sports management.
No, nice. That's my major.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I majored in sports management at Grand Canyon University.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I agree. It is nice. It's a good major. It's very versatile.
Yeah, so you can go into a lot of different things.
Yes, or you can host a radio show like I do now. No, but Carlos, I wish you the best of luck. As you mentioned, state competition's coming up here real soon. You're getting yourself ready. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got to run here in just a little bit, but thank you for coming on the show and talking about your college plans. I wish you nothing but the best of luck, man. And if you happen to, send me over a UT shirt if you go there.
I will. Okay, of course. Thank you.
Yes, of course. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Prescott High School golf coach Deb Fitzgerald and senior golfer Brannagh Woods right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Prescott High School golf coach Deb Fitzgerald and golfer Brannagh Woods. Thank you both for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
The Badgers are in the midst of getting ready for state playoffs. Their first competition is Monday and Tuesday, October 25th and the 26th. So we're a little ahead of schedule, but just kind of talking briefly about the season so far. The Badgers right now ranked 22nd for state qualifiers as we enter state play. Coach Fitzgerald, how's the season going so far?
The season turned out really well for us. We only had 2 returning players, and then we had 6 totally new to the program. So to have that ranking and the record we have, it just shows how much hard work the girls have put in this season.
Who's really stood out? You talk about, obviously, we'll talk about Brannagh Woods in just a little bit, the superstar golfer, the 4-year starter. But, you talk about another returner coming back to the program as well and a bunch of new faces. I mean, who's really surprised you so far this year?
Well, the number 2 golfer, Carly Moster, she's a freshman. She's been playing golf for many years. She was in the junior PGA program. So I kind of knew her coming into the program, but I didn't know what she was capable of shooting and playing. So that was a nice surprise. And then Dayanara Jasso, she played in the program last year, but she didn't play on varsity. Mm-hmm. So once again, she joined the junior PGA Summer League, and her game really improved also.
Okay. Kind of moving along here. As I mentioned, of course, the Badgers taking on state play October 25th and the 26th at Omni National in Tucson. Coach, how are you preparing this team right now for state?
Well, right now, just the team doesn't go. It's just individual. It's right. Brannagh who has earned the spot. So, we had our last home match last night, and we beat Seton Catholic and Mingus. Brannagh has today off. Tomorrow, we're going to go out to Antelope, do some practice. Then she's playing down in Tucson on the course on Saturday. Team's going to Top Golf on Sunday, and it's showtime on Monday and Tuesday.
Top Golf is definitely a lot of fun. What I love about Top Golf is you can't see me slice the ball. Like, unless you're looking at the scoreboard, which, come on, who's looking at the scoreboard when you're at Top Golf? But with me, I've got such a bad backswing from playing baseball for so long that Top Golf, thankfully, it's at least the one in Glendale's got that nice look of the freeway. You kind of lose the ball in the sky a little bit, and then I go, yeah, it landed in the back. It's in the back somewhere. So I love it. I love Top Golf. Don't mean to plug Top Golf too much, but
it's going to be a fun activity before we go out for a team dinner, because I'm bringing my whole team down to the state tournament to support Brannagh. So it's just something fun, and we'll do a team dinner and just a lot of team bonding, a lot of fun activities.
Well, and you keep Brannagh nice and loose before the state playoffs. Brannagh, let's jump over to you. Of course, this is your 4th year starting for Coach Fitzgerald and the Prescott golf team. Currently ranked 8th as an individual for state qualifiers. You are, of course, the lone representative for the Badgers program, at least this season. So since you are the lone, I mean, how are you preparing yourself for state playoffs?
Well, it's a lot of mental stuff, going into state, you're playing with a lot of girls who are quite competitive and, might try to intimidate you, which is what I've faced in the past. You just got to keep a positive mindset going into it and remember, you're there for fun, you're there for competition, and it's not the end of the world if you shoot a bad score, And I think that's what a lot of players get strung up on, that if they play bad, it's the end of the line. It's not, I've had a 50 this year. It wasn't nice, but, last match I came back with a 39. That's a lot of improvement,
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking through your scores here, 43 in the Mingus Page match. You mentioned the 50 against Mingus as well. 48, 43, 48, 39. You just keep going down the list here. And the statistics just get better and better. So you talk about, sort of the intimidation factor that's there with golf. I don't want to ask any specific examples, but for you, while you're in the match, I mean, how do you stay mentally focused? Obviously, I don't think you guys have spectators. You can kind of clarify that a little bit if there are spectators. But I know playoffs are stressful. I'm watching the Dodgers in the playoffs right now, and I'm sweating like crazy, and I'm not even on the field. I can't imagine being in a state golf tournament, being the only golfer representing the school, representing the program right now. I mean, how do you stay so focused while you're in the midst of a match?
Well, I like to keep the energy nice and positive. I like to make small talk with the other girls and try to just keep things going. But, you know, approaching shots, you're always thinking about, what am I going to do next? You don't want to get up there and just be totally blind of what you're doing. And the good thing about the course we're going to be playing for state is they switch off courses at Omni every year. They have Catalina and Sonoran. Okay. And I played 2 years ago at Sonoran, and we're going to be playing it again since I didn't go my junior year. So I already have a feel for the course. I know a lot about it, which is going to be a good advantage for me.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, of course, you know the course conditions, you know where the sand traps are, where the green lies, or any other golf jargon, as I pretend to know what I'm talking about. But again, we're speaking with Prescott High School golf coach Deb Fitzgerald and golfer Brannagh Woods. Brannagh is the representative at the state playoffs for the Badgers this year. Again, that's happening October 25th and 26th. Any pregame ritual? We talked about, obviously, Topgolf now factoring in, but any kind of pregame ritual for you, Brannagh, before you get started?
Not too much. You know, of course, as any golfer does, I go out on the range, chip, putt. That's about it, you know. I like to keep things pretty simple. I don't like to get out a bunch of routines and drills. I like to keep things fairly straightforward, you know.
Can you rank a level of importance for me? Can you rank the opening drive, your short game, and your putting? Where would you say is the level of importance of where you're kind of focusing before, you know, you guys really get in the midst of it?
Well, I'm always focused on my putting the most. That's where, you know, you'll get the most strokes if you aren't paying attention. But I would say the best part of my game is probably my chipping, because I'm fairly good at keeping it within 10 feet or closer of the pin, 10 yards or so. No. And, you know, hitting a good drive is always important to get your second shot there. But, you know, every part of the game is going to help or hurt you, right. But you got to stay focused.
All right, let's move away from the playoffs a little bit, and let's get a little reminiscent here. Do you have a favorite memory? You've been golfing for 4 years, right, for the Badgers. Do you have a favorite memory of being a part of this team? I know, again, still in the midst of your senior year, but just curious. Anything pops out?
I wouldn't say I have a particular favorite memory. Every day on the team is a ton of fun. We goof around a lot, and we like to stay as serious as possible. But, you know, we're all teenagers, and we like to goof around. You know, it's just fun being on the team. We're all like family almost. We goof around.
No, it's good. And you want to keep that environment. Of course, Coach Fitzgerald, you know, giving you guys a little bit of that opportunity to just kind of let loose and feel good before you get started. Coach, I want to ask, is that kind of something that you stick with your philosophy, just sort of keep things focused, but at the same time, relaxed and confident?
Yeah, I'm very structured and sometimes pretty strict. They know how far they can push me. And then it's like, okay, let's get focused now. You know, we can have fun. I would say our last two practices this week, I just had the 4 varsity girls, and they worked really hard, and we got a lot accomplished, and we had fun, but it showed up in the results yesterday in our last match. So everything that we worked on, they were kind of like goofy, but it's like, this is going to come back. It's going to help you. And honestly, the short game yesterday helped. We had 3 pars on this par 3 out of 4 of the players, which they usually don't do. So in practice, I made them re-hit, and I was happy that we had 3 pars out of 4.
No, that's great.
To help us. Yeah.
No, that's big time. Let's talk about this a little bit. Coach Fitzgerald, as we've discussed, you know, Brannagh's the only senior on the roster this year. You're kind of got a little bit more of the first-time players, first-time golfers. You know, how has Brannagh as a 4-year starter kind of helped out with some of the newer golfers?
Oh, her leadership, her skill set is above any other player on the team. And she's just another set of eyes that if she sees a player doing something incorrectly, she'll go right up, step in and coach and tell them how to do it correctly. So, you know, she's taught me a lot in my 4 years. So I thank her on that. And even our senior player that just came out this year, Peyton Weber, never picked up a golf club till August, Brannagh worked with her and she became our number 3 player on the team. So she's made an impact on many players on this team. Plus, she pushes them.
Yeah.
Not so much this year, but in the 3 previous years, she had competition. And she had to work for that number 1 spot. No one has beaten her for that number 1 spot in her 4 years of playing. So I would say her skill, her work ethics, she's been playing golf for many years and it shows. And that's why she's going to state as an individual.
Brannagh, let's flip the table for you now. You've been golfing for 4 years under the woman sitting next to you. What has Coach Fitzgerald meant to your golfing career these past 4 years?
Oh, I mean, Fitz brings a lot of structure to the team, obviously. She's just the best coach, honestly, we could ask for. We push her. And we provide her with our own little challenges. Yeah. But, this team wouldn't be the team without Fitz. She's the one who's really bringing us all here and helping us all start the team up and continuing it the next couple of years.
Yep.
Well, hopefully for more than a couple of years as the Badgers get ready for state playoffs here. Brannagh, I want to ask, what are your college plans? Do you have any college plans? Just what's coming up next in general for you in life?
Well, I plan to attend ASU. It's kind of been my dream college since I was in the 5th grade for whatever reason. I don't plan on playing golf in college, unfortunately, just because I had to kind of take almost a year off of golf my junior year for personal reasons. So I don't think I have the score provided to go to a school that I would like to. But of course, I'm going to continue playing golf throughout the rest of my life. And I plan to major in business. So it's kind of a linked sport.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way, whether it's off the links or on it, I mean, getting an opportunity to work in sports is always fun, especially when you have a passion for the sports that you're working in. I don't mean to make it about myself, but that's what I do every day. I get an opportunity to talk sports, be around sports, and continue to call sports, even though I haven't technically played competitive sports since my junior year of high school. But we don't need to talk about that. Coach and Brannagh, thank you both for coming on the show to talk about the state playoffs coming up and just the season in general. Brannagh, best of luck going forward at ASU. Coach Fitzgerald, best of luck this upcoming season, next season, the season after that, the future in general. We look forward to, please keep me up to date on what happens with the Badgers during the playoffs. And again, I thank you both for coming on and talking about this team.
Thank you for supporting the girls golf program. We appreciate that.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Sedona High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Sedona Red Rock High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum. Coach Blum, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you, Philip. Nice to be here.
Well, we're very, very happy to have you, Coach. We spoke to you before the start of the season, and now we are getting very, very close to the start of state playoffs. They are going on very soon. The Scorpions currently ranked 8th in the 2A conference in general. Coach, congratulations on that. We talked a little bit before the season. I know there's a lot of kids you were excited about getting back We'll talk about them, including your leading scorer, sophomore Luis Beltran. But we talked a little bit about recruiting before we started. Obviously, it's been a minute since we've talked, so I'm just curious, how's the season going in general? How many kids have you welcomed into the program? And how are some of those new faces shaping up?
Well, we started with 36 players back in July, and now we're down to 18 because many of the players that showed up for tryouts and practice looked at the competition and thought, they wouldn't have a chance to play or help out with the team. So they basically dropped out. So we're down to a solid 18. We have 3 freshmen that have played. One of them is a starter. His name is Ramon Betancourt. And then we have all the returners from last year, except for the 2 seniors, obviously, that graduated. So, right. We've really gelled. Unfortunately, there were 2 games that were canceled because the school was closed due to COVID protocols. And those games were not rescheduled. Otherwise, I think our record might be 7-3. Right now, we're 5-3.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the season. Of course, the Scorpions will finish out their regular season this week and then get ready for the playoffs here real soon. Unfortunate to hear that, Coach, that you had a couple kids drop out, but I mean, maybe they'll be back next season and add a little bit more depth to the roster, maybe potentially welcome in a JV team at some point. But regardless of that, you're getting some great play from most of your returners, one of which being sophomore Luis Beltran. He's got 10 goals on the season so far. Of course, there's still a couple games to be played before we end out the year. I know you were excited to get him back when we spoke before the end of the season. What strides has he made, Coach, from his freshman year to his second year as a sophomore?
So he's become more confident. That's one thing. He's helped on defense when we needed it. And he's just really difficult for the other teams to take on. He'll take on 3-4 players and he'll get through them. And like Friday, he scored 4 goals in the game. And he's just a tremendous athlete, very passionate, attends every practice, is kind of low key, but at the same time, once he gets on the field, he kind of takes over the game. So he's just a great asset, and we have him for 2 more years after this season.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, you've got kind of like this plethora of sophomores, this 3-headed monster, which I'm going to get to here just right now. But obviously, Luis being ahead of that sort of that 3-headed monster, essentially, of sophomores, where you're going to be getting those 3 back, along with a few other guys who we'll talk about in just a little bit. But, speaking about the rest of the offense, you've got Carlos Gonzalez and Noah Horton have both been making their impacts felt on the offensive side. They're both sophomores as well. Gonzalez has 8 goals on the season. He's right behind Beltran. And then Horton is right behind Gonzalez with 4. You're looking at getting all 3 of those guys, and Beltran, Gonzalez, and Horton back next season. I mean, Coach, you've already talked about just the excitement you're seeing this year. I mean, this is going to be a great little senior class for you, not including some of the freshmen we haven't talked about. Like you mentioned, you've got Ramon Betancourt, who's one of the starting freshmen on your roster as well. But you're looking at a sort of Pippen, Rodman, and Jordan essential combination when you guys get into next season and the season after. So how are you feeling confidence-wise? I know the season's still going on, of course. I don't want to predict or look too far ahead of the future, but I mean, getting 3 of those guys back, your leading scorers, it's gotta feel good, right?
Yes. And then there's other players in that sophomore class that are also contributing. Like Isaac is one of our sophomores who's kind of taking turns with Juan in goal. So they've been going back and forth every other game. They've been goalies, so that both of them are sophomores, and they'll return next year. They've already told me. So really happy, because a goalie position is really important to have. They're the last line of defense. So I'm glad about that. And then Reef Stevens will also return, another sophomore. He comes in and out of the game, whether I need him on defense or midfield. And he's very fast. He creates plays when we need it. And so he'll be returning. Yeah, so very excited, and we're losing 8 seniors, right, and 6 of them are starters most of the time. So that's going to have an impact, but I'm hoping to bring up some eighth graders. I've talked to several of them already at the game, before the game. And after seeing how well we play, they're willing to give it another try. Another player that's going to come into focus next year is Max Metzger's brother. He's an eighth grader. He'll be a freshman. So he's a really great player also. So it'll be an exciting year next year, but got to take care of business now with the game coming up Wednesday against Payson and Thursday.
Right.
Well.
No, definitely. Like I said, I don't want to look too far ahead in the future because I know we'll have you back on the show to talk about some of those new freshmen you'll get. And of course, Beltran and Gonzalez and Horton will all be your juniors and getting ready to, like you mentioned, Juan Diaz Rodriguez, your sophomore goalie as well, has also made an impact. And along with some of the other kids you got. But, it kind of makes you wonder, Coach, how many of those kids who stepped away this season and didn't necessarily want to play are now kind of kicking themselves a little bit, seeing, oh, man, the Sedona Red Rock team is now looking like a playoff contender.
Yes. I've told them, I said, if you want to try out for our team in July, I suggest you start practicing and be ready, be in condition, because it's going to be very competitive next year. We need to get another great team back, and make the playoffs again next year.
Again, we are speaking with Sedona Red Rock High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum. Again, the Scorpions right now 8th in the state in 2A soccer, getting ready to start their season. They got a couple games they're wrapping up this week, and then they'll be right in the midst of playoff time. Coach, like I mentioned, just kind of looking at the rest of your staff, we mentioned the seniors. You've got 8 seniors on the staff so far. Kevin Beltran, Adolfo Vasquez, Alex Sanchez Molina, who's also a goalie. We'll talk about him when we get to that portion of the interview. They've all had opportunities at the net. They've all scored this season so far. What has that senior class as a whole sort of meant to the team this year, and how has their leadership impacted the squad?
Well, six of those 8 I've had since they were freshmen. So they've really enjoyed working with the younger players, and you could see the maturity level between the seniors and the freshmen. And they're easy to coach. They've been around the game, and then one of them is a captain, Kevin Beltran, and he's just a great player. It's fun to work with the seniors. I have 8 of them, so losing them is going to be impactful. But I'm going to be recruiting heavily, and I'm also requesting that the other players on the team coming back next year that they try to recruit, because they know the kids in the school better than I do. So hopefully that'll help too.
Well, and then also, I mean, like you mentioned at the top of the show, you've got a bunch of kids who were on the roster and then decided to step away. Those kids might also garner some interest coming back. Like you said, you're already speaking with some of the kids at the middle school, so their interest is already starting to peak. And it's kind of the benefit, Coach, of being at I believe Sedona is a middle school, high school. And you kind of get those kids right on campus. So it's a little easier to recruit. If I remember correctly, if that's how Sedona works.
Yes, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now are also part of the school. Yeah. 6th grade. This was the first year that we brought the 6th grade up from West Sedona School.
Right.
So we have those 3 grades. They come to the games. They have brothers on our team and sisters on the girls' team. So we've been able to get the word out through students and siblings for sure.
Are just kind of curious. Are Kevin and Luis related? I know they have the same last name with Beltran.
No, they're not.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, a bit of a stretch of a connection there. But moving on here, Coach, the rest of your roster, we kind of talked a little bit about it. I mean, who else has really been stepping up for you? How has the new freshman class been sort of incorporated into the offense? I mean, just anyone else you want to mention before we get into the netminders?
Well, besides Ramon, we have Leo Troche and Alexis, 2 freshmen that, have a lot of potential. As they get older, they'll contribute more. They'll have more playing time. When I started last year, I had all those freshmen you mentioned before that are sophomores now. They were not starters. They were on the bench. And within a few games, they played every game. They were starters as freshmen. So that'll happen. They just need to play more and practice more, and they'll contribute next year, I'm sure.
How do you kind of develop that younger class of kids, Coach? I mean, do you try to find opportunities to incorporate them during the game? I mean, do you just sort of focus a little bit more on them at practice? I mean, how do you continue to develop? I mean, we look at your leading scorers, they're all underclassmen. They're all sophomores. So they're making huge strides from their first season going into their second season. And not to say, of course, in a couple months, we're going to be back here talking about that now junior class and then that now senior class a little bit more down the line. But how are you developing those younger kids? No JV teams. So they're trying to find opportunities there. So like I said, I mean, how do you kind of give those kids those opportunities? And do you look for things in practice? Is it just more attention? I mean, how do you sort of develop those freshmen to make those big strides their second and third years?
It's a little bit of both. When we have practice, we're actually replicating conditions in a game. When we've got the game at hand, we think we've got it. I'll put the younger players in either the last few minutes of the half or the last few minutes of the game, just to see what they can contribute. Of course, it's a disadvantage sitting on the bench all that time, but I make sure that they watch the game so they can see when they come in, like where they're going to play and who they're replacing. Yeah, so it's difficult. If they really stand out like Ramon did in the first Camp Verde game, even though we lost,
right.
I just saw him as a solid player. He's basically a pest on the field. He'll take on anybody, even if they're twice his size. He's just so skilled at taking the ball away, and he'll stay with the player. Even if he loses the ball, he'll just keep coming after them until they get rid of the ball or he steals it. So,
yeah, you kind of like that pestering mentality there, just to try to get the ball back. Again, we're speaking with Sedona Red Rock High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum. Again, Scorpions 8th in the state right now. We're getting close to the start of playoffs. They're wrapping up their season this week. Coach, let's move back down to more on the defensive side. Your goalies. You've got your sophomore goalie, Juan Diaz Rodriguez. He's got 6 saves on the season so far. And then, of course, you've got Alex Sanchez Molina, the senior, who's also been solid for you behind in the goal as well. 7 saves for him, excuse me. Coach, how have you been able to utilize those 2 players this season?
Okay, so the other goalie is actually Isaac.
Okay.
Isaac Montez. He's actually the backup goalie. I mean, they are kind of on par for skill-wise. I play them back and forth, depending on the game situation. Alex is actually our center fullback with Berto Sanchez. Gotcha. So those are our 2 defensive backs, and they've been real solid. I mean, we've played some real tough games like Chino last week where we lost 3-0. Isaac was injured, and Juan came right in and replaced him without me even asking. They already got him all set up to replace Isaac. But a great solid defense. Also, I have George Milan. He's a senior, and the others, and then Ramon plays on the left side. So solid defenders for sure this year.
Coach, let's talk about your 2 goalies then. And then how does Juan and Isaac sort of approach the position? Do they have 2 different ways that they handle the goalie position, or are they relatively similar?
They're similar. Yeah, they're both very passionate about it, and they know what to do. I mean, with a little tweaking here and there, which we work on during practice, they are very similar in style. Yeah.
How have you been able to utilize both of them in the defensive scheme? I mean, do you kind of maybe go game by game and switch out your goalie there? Is it sort of just maybe certain sets you'll switch them in and out? Like you mentioned, you've got 2 goalies kind of to utilize this year. I mean, how have you been able to kind of keep them both on the field for the most part?
So what I look at the game, the team that we're playing, okay, and that's when I decide. And I really don't switch it at halftime unless it's like we're winning 10-0, and I want to give the other guy a chance. We also have a third goalie who's a senior. His name is Reef Stevens, and he'll also come in and spell a few games for us when the situation is right. But basically, I want to work on the future. So I'd rather have the 2 sophomores be the primary goalies. Yeah.
No, of course, and I like your sort of mentality of giving these guys a full game opportunity instead of like you said, switching them out at halftime or utilizing one guy for 2 or 3 weeks and then switching them out. It's good to get that repetition, especially for your 2 sophomore goalies. Not to mention, obviously, the 3 other sophomores you have who are leading the team in goals. Really, Coach, you're looking at such a great senior class in just a couple of years and an even better junior class next season. But what you mentioned it earlier, obviously, to start the season, tough loss to Camp Verde, 3-0. However, a few weeks later, you guys bounce right back and get a 2-1 victory in overtime against the Cowboys. Can you take me a little bit through that game, through that overtime win? How was it to get a victory like that after getting shut out earlier in the season?
Well, it was such a reversal of fortunes, I guess. That first game, we hadn't even played any games. We had no competition. That was our very first game. And Camp Verde, I think, had played 3 or 4 games already. So all we were doing in practice is competing against one another, and that's not really a game. So we were not prepared. And now we have more of a rhythm now that we've put 7 games on since then. And then winning them at home was such a tight score. We really tried to hold them to possession. We tried to take the ball away whenever we could. We gave them a really good defensive battle. And then Beltran, Luis Beltran scoring those 2 goals once during the game and then once at the end of the second overtime period with less than 5 minutes left, really sealed the deal. And we were it was the most exciting win besides Payson last year, which, was also a great win. But this one was ranked up there too.
Well, I bet, Coach. I mean, I've called a couple overtime wins, and they're a lot of fun to be, of course, on the winning side of an overtime victory. But you get some exciting play once you get into extra time. I mean, it doesn't matter the sport. You get a lot of it's a completely different game when you head into OT. But obviously, you guys had played Camp Verde earlier in the season. You see them again a little bit later. There's a couple teams that you see twice on the schedule. For the most part, you'll play your region once through. You get a couple, maybe freedom game twice. Camp Verde is a freedom game. But Coach, how do you kind of what adjustments do you make when you've seen a team previously? Like I mentioned, you played Camp Verde before. You kind of have an idea of who they are when you see them a second time. You had a couple games under your belt by then. What adjustments do you make? What do you kind of look for? Things you did wrong that you want to improve in? Do you kind of go with a completely different strategy? What is your mentality when you're facing a team for a second time?
Well, it certainly helps. It's almost like you scouted them. So you know which of their best players. You try to maybe focus on some of them and look at their weaknesses, right, and take advantage of those weaknesses so that you can perhaps score or prevent them from scoring. It's basic strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love the simplistic ideal of it, because I'm thinking maybe there's a whole, 4 or 5 different tactics or whatnot. But you're right. You've seen the first team already. You kind of already know what they're made of. I mean, realistically, they're not going to throw anything else at you that you didn't see earlier. They're not going to get some random transfer from another school midway through who's this kid, But, I do want to ask, Coach, just a little bit. Obviously, Camp Verde and Sedona pretty close in terms of location to each other. So I know that Sedona doesn't do football anymore, but is there a little bit of a rivalry building with Sedona and Camp Verde now that you guys have had a couple knockout fights this season?
Yeah, and also because of the history, the football, the basketball, all the sports. It's always because they're kind of our closest neighbor, if you will. Yeah. It's the rivalry was there before we played them in soccer, which was last year for the first time. And we played them once, and we tied them when the lights went out at halftime. Yeah. So, it's always nice to be sort of your neighbor, if you will.
Yeah.
And the kids talked about that game right after it was over for the longest time. And it was even in the newspapers. Some of my players were quoted, "We can't wait till we play them again." And then to have an outcome and a victory. And we had great fans too. We had a home crowd, even though it was fall break. We still managed to get quite a few people to watch the game.
Well, Coach, before we let you go, like I mentioned, the Sedona Red Rock Scorpions are wrapping up their season this week. They'll be into playoffs by the time we get into this interview. But Coach, just in general, how are you preparing this team not only for the last 2 games of the season, but also as we get to the start of playoffs?
Well, it starts with today's practice. I've got a lot of notes to cover with them, and we just got to focus. I'll be talking to the seniors separately. I'll say, if we don't win Wednesday, basically Thursday's your last game. So you've got to leave it all on the field, communicate, maintain your composure, your discipline, all the things that we work on since July. So that's really going to be stressed. That's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. I'll talk about it Wednesday before the game, that this is it. It's do or die. And it'd be a shame not to make the playoffs after all the hard work that they've gone through.
Well, Coach Sam, I appreciate you coming on and talking about the season. Again, Sedona Red Rock High School boys soccer coach Sam Blum. The Sedona Red Rock Scorpions finished their season October 27th and 28th. They'll be in the playoffs here very shortly. But, Coach, best of luck on the season going forward. Keep me updated on how the season ends out. I'd like to thank the rest of my guests for this week's episode, Prescott High School golf coach Deb Fitzgerald and senior Brannagh Woods, and, of course, Sedona Red Rock swimmer Carlos Lattanzi, and, of course, Coach Sam coming on the show. Thank you, sir, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it. Of course, anytime. That's going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I'm Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.